All right, all right, all right. You know what time it is. Your favorite day of the week, Monday night. Not because of Monday night football, it's because we're in the counselor's corner on Monday night. So we're live for another open court discussion in the counselor's corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the controversial counselor. Joining me is my co-host, the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis. And as far as the panel, it's a Showtime decision. Recap from Monday's broadcast. The lies being told. I don't do anything to impress men. We had a nice active engagement in the chat from the YouTube and the Facebook audience. But the consensus was back and forth. But I think the overall response is it depends on the man and how interested the woman is in him. But I could be wrong, but that's what I got out of it. Now let's look at tonight's topic. The topic of discussion will be: is falling in love with a narcissist such a bad thing? And I got a little slack from this topic. Like they tried to Kyrie Irving me, put words in my mouth and saying I'm being insensitive to a group of people that's been abused by narcissists. And I'm like, so are you saying that all abuse comes from narcissists? Because we know it's a whole other stream of things that cause people to abuse people, and it don't have shit to do with a narcissist. But that's the angle they were taking. But they pretty much asked me what I need to think about changing the subject matter. I said I'm not changing shit. So here we go. Let me finish before I get into that. So there are the topic of discussion will be: is falling in love with a narcissist such a bad thing? Here are three reasons why someone will fall for one. They are adventurous, because some of you may run into the same old boring individual over and over. No
Because some of you
conversation.
may run into the same old boring individual over and over. No
Because some of you
conversation.
Sorry about that.
May run into the
No,
same
that's me.
old
I
boring.
turn the volume down. Go ahead.
All right, so the same old person. So boring person, no adventure, not willing to do anything to, you know, step off his block to do something different. Number two, they are charming and know how to make you feel special. So hey, and if we're talking about men, which they say majority of narcissists are men, then some of you women may have never been treated special. So here comes along Mr. Narcissist. It knocks you off your feet. Number three, they are great at making conversation and keeping the conversation going. We always say a good conversation is a lost art. Some people just don't have that gifted gab, or as Swanda would say, gabbing, which is a negative thing compared to gifted gab. Again, because gabbing means you're just talking about trivial stuff, and but gifted gab is like an art of conversation. So that would be the difference. All right, I'm on one tonight. So okay, I don't want to give you all the details, so let's move along to talking point number two: advantages and disadvantages of a blended family. Let me give you one advantage: it creates a foundation for better financial support. Hey, two people coming together, they have kids, they come together, they make it work, they pull their resources together, and hey, things, things could start looking up. That is not always the case, but that's, one advantage. Um, Now, for the disadvantage, it can lead to bitter sibling rivalries. Simple as this: some kids don't want to share their dad or don't want to share their mother with the other kids, and they're always in competition uh, for their parents' approval. So, that can get real competitive and kind of fierce. So, those are, and we're going to go into more, but those are just something to start off with. So, there you have it. with much more coming your way. Please like and share our video, and please subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. All right, here we go. Here we go. What's good, Herb? What's going on? What's new? What's different?
What's new? What's different? I still ain't got my garage roof on, man. This last piece of wood is kicking my ass, man. But you know what? Somehow I gotta get it done. I don't know how, but I'm gonna have to find out a way. Other than that, man, Dallas is still fucking up the program, man. It was supposed to beat Green Bay ass. Not that Green Bay's that soft of a squad, because I still think they got some talent, but they was just supposed to beat them for what happened last time. Dallas went there and they got jerked in the playoffs. I was so looking forward to it. Then I got to hear Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp talk all this trash to Skip Bayless. It's just like, you know what, man? I'm done with it. But that's it, man. I got nothing else to bring.
Shout out for John from America. Thanks for joining. And we got a Facebook user. I can't identify the name because I'm mainly, I guess, hooked through YouTube. So it's just coming up as Facebook user. So I'm not trying to be dismissive.
Could be Daphne.
Okay. Because Daphne.
Miss McNabb.
So that's that. Same old with me. When you're in the trenches every day at the school, not every day, but shit, it seemed like every day at the schoolhouse, it's nothing changed. You just trying to survive, trying to get through. Anything else? I'm sure to come up throughout this conversation. Can't think of it right now. So we gonna bless you. Gonna jump into this conversation and. All right, man. What's your thoughts, man? Bless you.
Thank you.
About someone falling in love with a narcissist.
Well, having dealt with somebody who was, I want to be careful how I word this. Having dealt with somebody who was under medical care for some personality treatments, it can be a dicey thing, especially if they, like you mentioned earlier, especially if they do certain things right that stroke you the right way. So and I'm only going to speak from a male perspective. So if you don't have good counsel to speak to, some experience, or just the wherewithal to ask certain questions about your own standing in the relationship, it can be like a tidal wave. You can get swept away. And boy, it's not, once you get swept away, it's like an undertow. If you don't get back to shore, bye-bye. It's not easy. Like I said, I'm speaking from experience. It can be a daunting task.
And for me, and I know research and statistics says that it's predominantly male, but I think a lot of it is people. It's one of those trigger words that people are throwing out there, and they try to put that. Oh, you're a narcissist. They try to take one or two character flaws, or I'm not even gonna say flaws, but something that you may do, and then all of a sudden you're a full blown narcissist. Where, hey man, there's so many things, so many disorders that you may have, one or two of the things, but that doesn't mean that that's you. So there is a such thing as a healthy narcissist. And I guess when I was researching and looking up the information, that was one of the things that came up. They was like, well, you know, most of the associations is it's all wrong. That they have that grandiose personality, dominating, controlling, lacking empathy, lacking boundaries, and things of that nature. But one of the things it also said is because their confidence it kind of reduces like depression and anything because they're confident in who they are. So it helps them in in that regard as far as their leadership skills and things of that nature. So it was pretty much saying it's not all that it's not all that bad like how people try to make it. There is some good in it. So, for example, let me read the definition of the healthy narcissist. Some researchers argue that there is a healthy narcissist, subtypes that describe people with high self esteem, along with a narcissistic personality disorder traits that do not interfere or cause problems in their lives or relationships. So, they got high self esteem, and these things, the typical traits don't cause problems in their relationship, so they're functioning, they're okay with it, and with their high self-esteem, hey, you got to have somebody in a relationship with a high self-esteem. If it's two people that's broken down and ain't got no damn confidence, I don't know what the hell is gonna happen. It's gonna be you're gonna have bigger issues than uh narcissism if that's the case. So somebody has to have some high self-esteem about them, and hopefully their high self-esteem could build you up in most cases. Now, if they're taking their high self-esteem and constantly putting you down and saying stuff, then that's a whole different avenue. But best believe this also, if you're trying to take shots at them, nobody with confidence or high self-esteem gonna just let you take shots.
You know what elements of that reminds me of, and I understand why it's looked at as always a male to female situation. Is it reminds me of Dom DOM sub relationships in which the Dom is always supposed to be the dominant one. And if you're not careful at how you look at this particular relationship, mind you, this is a relationship between two consenting adults, is the Dom always plays, always is, or supposed to be the one setting the rules, teaching, guiding with a loving, firm hand, not abusive for people who want to get out there and think that's what Dom sub relationships are. They're not, by their nature, they're not supposed to be abusive. And I just want to echo what Dave was saying. So, yes, they can be, but that also is going to be predicated, just what Dave was saying, on the two individuals involved. Because a lot of subs find Doms who aren't worthy of being their Doms because they're not good enough. And when I say they're not good enough, they don't have the right intentions. They don't have the right information. They don't have the skill set. They themselves are incapable of leading themselves. So if they are incapable of leading themselves, how can they lead another adult? That's what we always say on this program when we talk about single mothers and single mother raised boys. If a single mother raised boy comes from a home that's dysfunctional, what do you think he is going to be? He can't be anything other than dysfunctional. So when we have women that are talking about, that boy is a product of his home, it's an absentee father. Well, yes, more than likely it is an absentee father, but not only is it an absentee father, it's a lack of male guidance that he's had in his entire life, not just when he was from 1 to 2 or from 2 to 5 or from 5 to the time that he hits puberty. This is why I've said consistently on past shows with panelists that have disagreed, when that boy hits a certain age, give him to his father because there's nothing else you can do for him except ruin him as a man. As the adage goes, and I believe Frederick Douglass said this, it's easier to raise strong boys than it is to repair broken men.
Let me see. John from America said, unless it's why I have been by myself for so long as well, because, yeah, I do not think I'm ready for a relationship. And that's okay to
Right.
feel that way. If you know it, and it's a good thing, and that's self-awareness. that okay, I'm not ready, so I'm not stepping into that line of fire, and I'm going to hold off until you feel you're ready. And we talk about we had series of shows on are you really ready to date or ready to get back out there. So none of these conversations are brand new, but it's life. It goes back in cycles and circles. You keep talking about it to eventually it starts sticking.
Yeah, and I don't know, and maybe it's just I don't know, maybe it's just the way I perceive things, but rarely does anything that we discuss on this show or any perspectives that the other panelists might bring, it's not new. It's just a different way of looking at something. And I think far too often that's lost on a lot of us because we tend to walk around and listen for things that are of our own perspective, aka the echo chamber. And that becomes dangerous because you never get any new information. You never get to hear another perspective. Because I have a list of things that I have saved for talking points that I don't necessarily agree with. But I do want to know what other people are talking about, what other people think. This is why sometimes I'll introduce something that runs counter to what I think just to hear what other people say. Just like last week when I talked about the gubernatorial race and the outcome in Georgia. I said it here before voting day. I said if Stacey Abrams lose, watch how they'll blame black men. And what's the chatter? She's blaming black men, saying that if the black men voted for her, that she would win. It's a new dawn. It's a new awakening. Black men are no longer giving their vote away to anybody. Doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. I talked about the black male political agenda put out in part by Dr. T. Hassan Johnson. You can go look it up on your favorite search engine. It's there. All these things are now starting to come up. No longer, people probably want to know what does it have to do with being narcissist. This is the position that black men have been put in by, yes, and I'm going to say it, I don't care who it offends, by black women, as we have always been taken for granted. And that's what narcissists do. They think they can do no wrong. They think they're perfect. And the moment you try and criticize them, they always will turn it back to you. This is why you always hear, what about the men? Well, if you want men to lead, then it requires you to sit your ass down and follow. But some of y'all don't want to do that. So how can somebody lead if you always want to be up front? I'm just putting that out there.
Let me see this definition, but the statistics show that the black man came out to vote for Stacey Abrams, Stacey Adams.
which is the irony. See, this is what people don't understand about how politics works, especially in a staunch Republican state like Georgia. I know they flipped it for Biden, but that's because more people come out to vote during presidential elections than they do for any other election in the state or in the country, or however whatever election is going on, whether it's local, county, state. Yes, black men did by and large, but what she was counting on was all of the black men who voting for her. Now, I was listening to the breakdown, and shout out and acknowledgement to the job that this man does. He has several channels, and I can't recall all of them off the top of my head. The Black Business, Jason Black, by the way, he broke it down. He said since the last presidential election, I believe it was, there was 265,000 voters added to the voting rolls in Georgia. Now, Stacey Abrams lost by a little less than 300,000 votes. She was saying If all of those votes had been for her, because they were talking about early voting, that she would have won. Last time she lost by about 55,000 votes, which is why they were able to trigger the recall. If she had geared her platform towards targeting other demographics of voters, aka Caucasian men, Caucasian females, she may have actually been able to close the gap more. But when you focus your demographic on a demographic that is probably one of the smallest demographics that votes in that country, in that state, you might be able to win. And I only say this because I know what type of campaign and how it needs to be geared and who you need to target to win, having done it 4 times myself. So not only I don't speak as a layperson on this, I actually speak as an expert. And one of the few things I can do, which is running and governing, or running and I'm sorry, not governing an election, running a campaign. It's not easy. So you need to figure out who your target audience is and who you could potentially get to change their vote. She didn't do that, as evidenced by what she lost is by this time is greater than by what she lost last time. So absolutely, black men by and large did vote for her, but they didn't vote in what she and her constituents feel is enough. And this is all over social media, whatever platform you're using. I'm not going to go through the individual social media platforms, but they're out there, and black men are bearing the brunt of this. And this is like, you know what? We've been being whipping posts from day one since we got here. So why not continue to be whipping posts for a reason? And that's part of that narcissistic treatment. That's part of that narcissistic position that people hold.
And I want to read this comment from, and thanks for joining us, Bruce Major. Narcissistic is never used to describe the state of the black woman, but that's largely what they've become. Mm. So we're going to go a little deeper in some of these types of narcissists. And one of them is aka the classic or grandiose narcissist. An overt narcissist displays most of the traditional narcissistic traits and tendencies, including the grandiose, entitlement, and having in a boastful manner. So, and they say that usually you associate that with guys. The covert narcissist, aka insecure or vulnerable narcissists, and they usually associate this with women. Covert narcissists can be harder to detect because they may appear shy, humble, reserved, or even insecure to other people. So those kind of secret ones, those silent ones, but they do little things and they play the victim and acting like it's them against the world is against them, and that type of defeatist attitude wears on people, and that's what you have. And then there's the communal narcissist. Is someone who appears selfless and generous with their time, money, and resources. They are likely to be very active in charities or other good causes, but use these roles to promote themselves for a favorable impression or create a reputation for being a good person. So you have those people that put themselves out there, or look at me. Look at anytime you have a look at me person, look at me what I'm doing. Look at me, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But as soon as somebody buck the system and go against what they're doing, they get mad. And they get an attitude and they're done with you. They're done with the whole whatever the program is, they're done. You're a damn narcissist. You out. And people may say, oh, well, oh, that's different. That's not what we typically think it is. So it's more to this than what you think, like it's some man brought beating down a woman and she balled up in a fetal position in the corner and he's sitting around. It's more to it. So people, y'all need to expand your thought process on this and know that it's more to it. Let me get through these. I already did the healthy one, and then there's the malignant narcissist has traits and symptoms of both the narcissistic personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. They are considered dangerous because they display a lack of empathy a pattern on preying on others. Yeah, that is a dangerous person who doesn't have any empathy, care, or concern. Probably the type of person that'll be cracking up at a damn funeral or something like that, or just rolling and stuff in a situation where, okay, we're at a meeting and it's a sad subject and everybody's kind of like, wow, can't believe this. And they sitting there cracking up or rolling or smile. Those are dangerous people who don't have no empathy. But then again, from somebody else's platform, they say men don't have empathy.
I'm sorry for the. Let me explain why I laughed when he said that. For the bare naked lady fans who might be listening to the song 1 week, there's a part in the refrain when he says, "I'm the kind of guy who laughs at a funeral." If you don't understand what I mean, then you soon will. And I could never really figure that out. I mean, for years, that has always just sat in my mind as like, why would you sit there at a funeral and laugh? And I thought of a couple different reasons. One, sometimes laughter masquerades fear, uncomfortableness, a couple other things. So you never really know what an individual is feeling inside. They might be uncomfortable, like I said, going through something tumultuous where they're trying to deflect what it is that they're feeling on something else, not necessarily another person, but just at the laughter. And people say, "Yo, is this person strange? They're laughing, and there's nothing here that's funny." You never know what an individual is thinking, what they've been through, what they're going through, or what they're pondering. So absolutely, all this stuff plays a role in it.
So, see, John from America, laughter can help ease pain or mask
Hmm.
insecurity. Yeah, and it's true, but I think that's when you say you have to kind of decipher the level of appropriate. Like, is it the time, place, and situation? Like, if you kind of got to fill out the situation, even though typically you may handle stuff through laughter, but if everybody else is bawling out and all emotional and all that stuff, you might have to hold that laughter in. But if you're a narcissist, you ain't holding nothing in. You just cracking like shit. That shit ain't bothering me. That wasn't my mother who died. I don't care. They don't have anything to do with me. And they may take on that type of, and I may be a little facetious, but maybe not. There are some people who just have that attitude, like they ain't got nothing to do with me. Have
Yeah.
nothing to do with me at all. And and people are like, oh, you don't care. You don't care that it was that school shooting in Texas, and nope, they ain't got nothing to do with me. And when my children in that school, shit, I ain't got nothing to do with that. I didn't even think about it. Didn't think twice. There's people
It-
that's
it's
how they
it's
function.
it's a tough world we live in. And excuse me, the heat up here is making me sneeze now, and I've been not feeling great the last 2 days. But it's a tough world we live in, and a lot of people, they assume, whether it's correctly or incorrectly, that everybody should always feel the same way about certain things. And I hate to talk about, um they call them tragedies. First of all, I really think that anything that a human does to other humans is tragic. Preventable to a degree, yes. So when I talk about incidents and where there's violence involved, and like I said, I'm not trying to talk about these particular incidents because I hate to give light to them. But when you have people going around doing harm to multiple people at the same time, I think there's a larger question that's not being answered. So whether you want to talk about mental health issues or issues that this person just just said, okay, you know what? I have nothing else to lose. I'm going to harm as many people as I possibly can before I transition. All these things manifest themselves in different ways. And because we as a society have become kind of desensitized to it, like David was saying, well, they're not my children because I kind of have adopted that mentality, not because I don't care, it's because I don't want to burden myself, burden myself mentally with some of the stuff that's going on because I think a lot of people just don't care. That's my perspective. Does not make it right. That's how I deal with it. Some people can say, well, that's a coping mechanism. You're correct. Some people say that's a defense mechanism. You could be correct. I compartmentalize a lot of things, so I just simply don't deal with them. It's one of the reasons why I don't have TV in my home. So if I don't want to be burdened by that nonsense, and I use the term burden loosely, if I don't want to be exposed to it, probably a better word, I don't have to worry about it because I don't click on it. It's not that I'm oblivious to it. I just don't give my conscious effort in life to it. That's all.
And I think with that, sometimes, and that's talking about the areas of boundaries where some of us live to be in everybody else's boundaries. They want to be in everybody else's business. They want to be the savior. They want to be Mother Teresa. They want to be every everything that they could be to everyone when simply me myself, I'll stay out of the way. I don't go
Hmm.
looking I don't go looking for I don't go looking for anything, looking for trouble or trying to be a savior, whatever. I'm fine going to work and just coming home and doing my thing and being in my own bubble. That way, hey, if I'm gonna be stressing anything, it's gonna be my own internal thoughts or whatever. It's not gonna be trying to worry about this person or that person or what they got going on. Because if that's the case, you're gonna run yourself raggedy and into the ground, and therefore you have to be able to establish boundaries that say, okay, I'm not dealing with this today, and I'm not gonna keep. Because some people, they're caught up in that. They live for it.
Yeah.
They live for it, and if it ain't going on, they're searching for it. I said something to one of my buddies at work the other day, and I guess it was the other week, and he said it was kind of near and dear to him. He was like, talking about mentoring and all that stuff with the young black boys and even black girls, or period. And I said, at this stage of the game, I said, I don't go looking to help nobody. I said, people that want to be helped, they come to me and they keep coming back because they know I'm giving them something good.
Hmm.
And those are the ones that want to be helped. I don't go around, hey, why are you looking upset? You don't look, hey, if you upset and you don't want to tell nobody, keep on, keep doing what you're doing. But the ones that build relationships with you, they're going to keep coming back to you. And those are the ones that you're going to get, and they're going to end up being successful because something you said or something you said resonated to them, and you may have that voice of reason in their head, and they may say, "Oh, Mr. Glover said this," or "Mr. Glover, let me go see Mr. Glover because I'm in this situation." And those are the productive relationships. But when you out there trying to search, hey, I'm willing with a sign, I'm willing to help whoever needs help. That should never work. It never worked, whatever. That's why when you force people to go to counsel, when you force people to go to church, when you force people to do anything, it's not genuine. It's not real. It's not authentic. People got to want to, if people want to be helped, they come to you to get help.
Yeah, that's one of the cardinal rules of and no, I've never been let me preface this by saying I've never been in 12-step programs, but I have a really good friend who's got 22, 23 years clean. And he said that's one of the first things that you have to do when you enter into those programs is understand that you've hit rock bottom. And the only way to change is to admit that you need to change. That has to come from within self. So it's like David said, you can't quote unquote help somebody who does not want to help themselves because you have people out here who are professional victims. Doesn't matter what their gender is, doesn't matter what their age is. If they think they can get something by playing a particular role, they will play a particular role. So long as the outcome benefits them and what they want. And a lot of people get caught up in always being the perpetual person that helps somebody. And I see it all the time, generally from women on my Facebook feed, is they're tired of being taken for granted. They're tired of always helping, never ask if they need help. And that is also an underlying issue of why sometimes you just have to let people fail. Because then they'll realize, okay, they need to clean up their act because they're at rock bottom and nobody's coming to throw them a lifeline. This is why you always see more men homeless, except for right now that it's trending a little bit differently because of COVID and the COVID evictions, but I'll get to that another time. This is why you always see men making up more of the homeless because there's less sympathy and empathy given to them because the world will say, well, you're a man, you can go out there and make for yourself. But how do we say that men can go out and make for themselves? And now we're living in this equality, this equality feminist society, and not say the same for women. Is that we hold men in higher regard in some instances and not others? Do we expect men to do for themselves, but we allow women not to? Like I said, man, it's a twisted world we live in, man. So sometimes you got to get in where you fit in, and I'm a proponent just like Dave. Look, I'm not helping anybody that's not coming to me for help. But I will tell you this: I was walking to the grocery store probably about 4 hours ago, walking down the strip, and there's I call him a young brother because I call all my brothers young. He's sitting in a mechanized wheelchair. He has some items in his hand, and I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, why are you trying to get out the wheelchair? And then it dawned on me that he wanted to get out. So I motioned to him, you want to come out? I'll hold the door. He nodded his head. I opened the door. He made his way out. And as I was turning around to walk away, he said, can you help me and put these in the bag? I said, absolutely. And I did it with a smile and with enthusiasm because he asked. He was not above being in this situation and asking for help. Those people, 99.9% of the time out of 100, you're going to get my help. And you're going to get it from most people who are gracious enough to do things because they have it in them innately to help humans.
And speaking of that, and this might piss people off, but frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. But around this time, it's the holiday time, and everybody wants to, again, be the big helpers, provide this and that. The issue I always have with this is when you keep providing the same shit to the same people every year, and they don't do nothing to get out of that predicament. Don't y'all think that's counterproductive? Don't y'all think that's why you never grow? Because again, like Herb mentioned, you got to hit rock bottom. You got to hit rock bottom. People got to stop. And I'm not trying to, because some of y'all may take this, oh, that's narcissistic. Oh, you think you're better than them. What if you ever need something? If I ever did, it probably would be a time like, oh, he hasn't came any other time before, so he's good. And it would probably take a whole hell of a lot for me to even ask for help as far as that, which probably seems hypocritical, but that's just probably pride. And I know pride could kill you, but I just think sometimes some of that stuff needs to be scaled down, or you need to start looking at the same individuals and be like, you've been here the last 5-6 years. Mm-hmm. What the hell have you done different? We have nothing for you, because they start calling schools, churches, and they want to celebrate holidays and all that. You can't celebrate shit you don't have to celebrate. unfortunately. But we have this attitude that we can help people, but again, I think it's counterproductive if it's not helping these people grow. Again, we always talk about growth. When people start feeling uncomfortable, when you have to start looking at your kids in their faces, say, "Nah, mom or dad, there's nothing. I won't be able to get that," and then they're looking like, "Why? Like why?" Well, I didn't go out. Well, I had this job, I lost it, or I didn't like the manager. Now stuff is start getting critical, and you have to start hitting home. But when they have that attitude, well, I ain't got to do this because I know at this time this person's going to be giving out this person's going to be giving out, and I know the people that's giving out the stuff. You're doing it with a good heart and all that stuff. Sometimes you got to think deeper. Like, am I really helping this person? I've been doing this for 10 years, and 10 years they've been coming back every time. Sometimes you don't want to see somebody come back and you're like, damn, they done made their way. And then even in the school, sometimes I see a kid on a regular basis, then all of a sudden I don't see him. And then when I do see him, what's going on with you, buddy? Or hey, young lady. Oh no, everything's good. Everything's good, Mr. Glover. I didn't really need anything. Everything's been fine. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm proud of that moment. But thanks for your help. If I need you, I'll come back. But everything's been going good. That's what you want to see from people. Like, now I didn't have to come this year because I got a job. I got my shit together. Everything's good with my kids. We're fine. But if they never feel uncomfortable, then it'll never change.
Progression, and it's funny you say that. I saw a young brother probably about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago when I was doing the volunteer mentoring and with the program that I was with. He had his wife, I believe, at the time had just left him with two young girls. I believe their ages were 7 and 8, 7 and 8, somewhere around there. And he was struggling. The man was struggling, as much as you can be a first time father. And he came to the program. We assisted the girls with their academics as much as we could to that particular point. And I saw him, like I said, I saw him a few weeks ago, and I said, "Hey, how you been?" He said, "Man, I'm doing great." I said, "How are your daughters doing?" He said, "Man, they're doing fantastic." I said, "That's excellent to hear." Because a lot of people, either through shame, embarrassment, they will not seek out help because they don't want to be ridiculed. They don't want to be maligned. So it's yes, sometimes some people will need, and I stress the word need, they will need someone to reach out to them, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how. And some people will say, well, all you got to do is ask. Ask who? Ask what? Because sometimes it's easier for somebody who's done something to say, well, this is all you have to do. And I have to remind myself of that sometimes when I'm talking to people. So the things that I do is say, well, what is this individual age? What is their particular situation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Almost like I'm doing an intake for a particular program. And I say, well, have you spoken with this individual about this? Have you told this individual about this? Because the worst thing we can do as people who are in a place of success relative to someone else is we can't take for granted what we think they know and what we think they should know. So we have to be careful of how we wield information, because sometimes you can wield information and it can be harmful to someone because of the way that you're presenting it. So give it to them as if they're making a choice. And they will look at it and say, oh, I didn't know I can do this. And like I said, be genteel with it. You say, absolutely, all these things are available, but it's going to require you to choose one. I'm not saying you have to do it now, but the sooner you start, the sooner you'll get to where it is that you want to be. So it's not always easy, for an individual to come forward and say, "Hey, look, I'm in a bad way. I need some help. Can you help me?" Because and in Niagara Falls, because the economic situation for a lot of people is so dire. Sometimes I walk around and I'll see the same people doing the same thing. They won't ask you for help, but they'll ask you for money. Those are the people I don't even respond to. I'm sorry. I'll tell them, I say, "Hey, look, you know what? I just saw about 5 cans back there. No, I'm not going to do that." Then you don't want any money. "Oh, man, I'm sorry. You don't want to work for it. If you don't want to work for it, I'm not going to give it to you because I got to work for mine. So I'm not giving away anything for free that you're not going to work for." I'm with Dave on that. That's why I draw the line. I'm not giving away mine. Sorry. No can do.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I know some of you may think like, "Oh, what does it have to do?" All of this stuff is connected. It's all connected. If you take your thoughts deeper on this, it's it's all it's all connected. Even when you think of narcissistic ways, again, if you're somebody who don't have empathy or whatever the case is, or sympathy, but sometimes you get to a point where you may not have empathy for certain individuals, but that doesn't mean you're a narcissist because you've been in that movie before with these people, and it's the same thing over and over. So you become desensitized and say, "Man, I ain't even don't even move me. Go to somebody else that may buy into this. I've been around the block for a while, so I'm not buying into this." And I know some of you may be like, "Oh, that's not counselor like whatever." Listen, uh, I could tell you one of my professors in my counseling program, he's on LinkedIn, and I post some of the same stuff that I don't care. I post some of the same stuff that I post on there, and that's supposed to be professional, this and that. Whatever, man. I don't buy. I'm not going by those guidelines, so I give him the raw as well. And and I told him one day, he responded or he messaged me, and I said, "I know, Doc. I know this isn't the stuff that you taught me in theory and all that stuff." And then he pretty much said, "David, keep doing what you're doing." He said, "People learn differently. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they learn differently. Keep doing what you're doing. I like what you're doing." And that's been my whole approach. So I don't subscribe to everything like you're gonna get that soft little voice or whatever the case is and sound like I'm reading from a book. I'm gonna give it to you how I think I should give it to you. And that's just the way it is. You adapt to certain situations or certain people, and you might change up a little bit. I mean, if you want to come raw and you want to be rude and ignorant, shit, that's what you're gonna get back too. All right, Anita, how you doing?
I'm okay. I'm tired.
All right,
School's kicking my behind.
yeah. I
You
don't feel
know,
sorry. I don't
it's
feel
almost
bad
the
for
end of
you either.
semester.
Man, no empathy for the student, man. Come on, man.
I'm just messing with her. But you know what the subject is, don't you?
What subject are we on now?
Oh, we're still talking about the narcissism.
Oh, okay.
So
Go
what's your
ahead, Herbert. I know you got lots to say.
No,
what's your take on it?
I've only dealt with one person that was what I would now looking back at it, what I would consider as narcissistic, and it's funny. I actually quote unquote ran into this person, and in order to protect this individual and the event that I was working at, I can't get into any details before anyone asks. This individual came across me, and I had to perform a duty, and I did the duty. Now, the funny thing was, I saw this individual initially when they entered the building, and I said, "Okay, this has the potential to go one of two ways: really good or really bad. I had no preconceived notion of how it was going to go. Honestly, I didn't know how I was going to react. Because mind you, this individual and I had been intimate. We shared some secrets together. So I knew she had the potential, not that she would, but she had the potential to misbehave. And I'm going to assume that she was there with her better half. So
Misbehave how, Herbert?
let's just say in ways that would have embarrassed her.
Mm.
Because you can't embarrass me. I'm beyond being embarrassed. It's just simply impossible to embarrass me. Only thing, like I tell people, the only thing you can say about me are things that are right and things that are wrong. If you say something to me about excuse me, speaking too quickly. If you say something about me that is right, I will acknowledge it publicly, privately, and if not, I have no reason to respond. So, like I was saying, when this individual crossed my path, I did what I was supposed to do in the professional manner I was supposed to do, and there was no issue. It was in that moment that I learned something about myself. And that was no matter how bad a situation has the potential to be, I can rise above it. And I don't have to feed into certain things and tropes that have been designed to ensnarl me or people who look like me. Matter of fact, men who look like me and get us derailed. Because so often that's what a lot of black men do. This is why you find a lot of black men, excuse me, in toxic relationships with women who are 5'1", 110 pounds, because they're being manipulated. They're being dominated. And more often than not, is by some narcissistic woman who they can't shake because they think they need this woman in her life. Well, she does so much for me, and she keeps me this, and she keeps me. And I'm thinking, bruh, those are all the things you're supposed to do as a sentient man. Whether you 23, 33, 43, or 53, those are at least from where I stand, those are givens.
Like
You're
what?
supposed you're supposed as a fully fledged adult, you should be able to get yourself up in the morning, out the door, and on your way, whether that's to school, work, or a meeting you have. Those are things that every capable adult should be able to do. A lot of black men, because they have been coddled by their mothers, they think they need somebody to help them do that. This is what society is putting men through now. They want men to become more effeminate. They want men to show their emotions. They want men to be less masculine. Well, don't they understand that when you get men that are less masculine, you start to deconstruct society? Think about all the jobs that women won't do. You got women that won't work in coal mines. You got women that aren't going to build. You got women that aren't going to climb steel girders, work on the exterior buildings that are 10, 11 stories tall. Who's going to help build your next hospital? Who's going to help build your next school? Who's going to build your home if people don't want to do plumbing? All those are considered dirty jobs, dirty, dangerous jobs. Women don't want those jobs. Women
It's
won't
not,
push.
it's not, I don't think it's so much that it's, well, for me, yeah, some of it is because it's a job that I wouldn't want to do. That's why I appreciate men who do them. But sometimes it does, how can I say? It does help for a man to do it because sometimes they can do it better than a female by the height and their their makeup as a man. And also, just because a man can show their emotion doesn't mean that they can't be masculine at the same time.
Well, it's I'm not disagreeing with anything you said. The problem with men showing their emotions to the wrong woman is she will use that against him, which is why
And vice versa. Don't always come on here making women the culprit.
we're talking about narcissism.
Okay,
And hold on.
okay. I'm
And,
listening.
and I can only speak about narcissism as having it tried to, or as having it put upon me, or attempted anyways, by a female. I can't speak from a male's perspective because I'm never going to be in that situation.
So you
Sorry.
don't know any you've never run into any male that you deem to be narcissist or have narcissistic relationships, whether it's socially or otherwise.
Yeah, but I don't deal with them. I just simply let them go on their way.
I
That's
mean, I don't think you necessarily have to deal with them to talk about the subject.
no, but that's why I preface the situations that I was talking about when I said the female and myself have been intimate. I'm not going to be intimate with any man. That's the dynamic that I don't have to worry about with a man. Because if a man says something to me that I deem disrespectful or crazy, I'm gonna look at him like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you? Pardon my French. Either he's going to get the message or I'm going to have to ratchet up the rhetoric. I'm not going to do that with a woman. I'm going to look at her like she's crazy and say, are you okay? See, the reason, and David said this at the top of the show, the reason why it's always looked at as men being narcissistic is men are assumed to be the power brokers in a relationship. When we know that's not always true. But that's what they report. Just case in point, go try and find the statistics on male rape. Good luck. But we know it happens. There's
And
just
it's
no
underreported, just like a lot of women don't report it too.
right. So the point becomes, how do you start to quantify this information if one is not talked about? Two, you can't find any links, and the only credible people you can find that'll talk about this stuff don't wish to be identified. Think about it. How many men actually want to be outed as the one who was in a relationship? He's 6'2", 235, and he's being dominated by a female half his size.
Some guys like that kind of thing.
Yes, until it starts to adversely affect them. And once they're ensnared in her trap, how do they get out?
Not that difficult.
Says you, but you're not them. This is one of the things I was talking about when I say I have to be careful of projecting onto other people what I know. Because either one of us can sit here and say that something is not hard. That's only because A, we've done it, B, we know how to do it, or C, we can direct some people to get some help where they can be shown how it's done. But if you don't have access to any of that, then what do? Who do you turn to? Who do you call? So you're stuck. Hey, it might be a start, but meanwhile, you got to go back home to this female who's gonna beat your ass because you didn't bring home the milk for her kid that you decided to take into your house. And mind you, can't put her out.
Well,
She's
damn,
getting
he should
married.
have brought home the motherfucking milk. How
Hey,
about that?
he was partying with his boys,
It don't matter.
but he's
If
a
I say
grown man.
bring home the milk, bring home the motherfucking milk.
But he's a grown man with no kids. That's her child, not his.
don't matter. You assume
Why?
the responsibility to live in the house.
No,
You assume
it's it's
the
it's it's
responsibility
it's
to
his
take
home.
part in household obligations.
But how so?
How so?
Hmm.
How not?
Because he's doing this young woman a favor by
He
housing
ain't
her
doing no
child.
woman no favor.
Okay,
Mm-mm. He
so
ain't
if he
doing
left,
no woman no favor by not contributing to household obligations, which
I think
includes
I
the
think you
woman
missed the
and
part.
the child.
I think you missed the part when I said it's not his child.
No, I didn't miss that part. I
So
fully understood that part.
he's obligated to provide for someone else and their child.
Yes, because that's the role he decided to take on himself.
And see,
So if
this
you're living in my household and I have a child, you take on that obligation. And it's not
just
that difficult to grab some milk or whatever on your way home.
but why couldn't you do it?
Because I'm at home taking care of the child.
But it's your child. You're supposed to.
It don't matter. If you're part of the extended family or blended family or what have you, whatever you want to call it, you
And this
have some obligation to the household.
and this is a
You're correct.
perfect
Yeah, it
segue
is, Dave. It is.
into the
You're
second point.
you're correct. Let me
Only
finish this point, and I'll let you get in it, Dave. You're correct. His obligation is to make sure that the utilities are paid, the mortgage or rent is paid, and that you have a place and your child to call home.
So it was my home to begin with, right?
No, it's his home. He's allowed you into it. That's why I said I think
You
you
didn't
missed
say
that.
that part.
That's why I said I think you missed it.
I didn't miss the part where you said it's her child. So if we're cohabitating and you assume that responsibility to be a family without the paperwork, then yeah, it should work like clockwork. Y'all should have some understanding of what's going on. I'm not moving in with no man and he don't want to, help me and my child. My child is an extension of me.
All right, hold that thought. Go ahead, Dave. You're gonna make move on to the next point with the blended families.
actually, it was another point that I wanted
I
to
can't
clarify.
hardly hear you, David. What's going on?
Sound like it's your issue. Uh, can you hear me now?
Hold on. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you better when I wasn't on the panel.
Oh,
Oh,
So anyway, go ahead.
so what I was gonna say is wanted to speak on the one point where in the narcissistics, if they talk about a person thinking they're better than the next person, and I think a lot of people get caught up in that as if everybody's equal. And we've talked about this before. There are some people that may be better than you. Unfortunately, I know not all of us start off on the same playing field, but in certain cases, other people put in more work. And deep down inside, whether it's a male or a female, and I'm going to say if it's a male, two males, and you're like, man, well, we grew up in the same neighborhood. He went to college. I went to college, but then he ended up getting these different certifications or this and that. So he elevated himself. Um, I'm not, too many people want to play that role. Oh, that you think you're better than me or you think such and such. But if they put in more work or they did certain things to get to a level, are they essentially better? Because in sports, uh, Yeah, some people are more talent, more athletic, and some people just put in that work and got to a level to get to these big paydays and all that. So prime example, as we call him, the GOAT, Tom Brady. He's a 6th round pick. He put in that work and did whatever. Some people say, oh, he cheated or whatever the case is. That's neither here nor there. But we're not all equal. Unfortunately, and I'm not talking about, and you can look at it from the racial standpoint, or some people have more privileges, they have more of this, or their families were set up. I'm talking about people from the same background, same social economic status, and certain people went to another, raised up, and some people didn't. Aren't they supposed to feel like it's so hypocritical? Because we'll say that to somebody, but then when we start thinking about relationships and stuff like that, we'll be quick to say, nah, they ain't on my level. I'm not talking to this person. I wouldn't get with them. But yet and still, you can't admit that somebody they brought more to the table. They got more life experiences. They did more than I have. They're above me right now. And not in a superior type of role, because the person who's putting in that work ain't even thinking about your ass like that, for real.
Sure.
They're thinking about the person who's above them, like, how could I get to that level?
Mm-hmm.
They're not looking behind. So that's the first mistake, to think that somebody's ahead of you in the game, that they like, I'm much better than you. Nah, they thinking about, man, how could I get here? I need to get there. But a lot of times people be stuck on that. I just wanted to get that point out.
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, it's the crabs in the barrel mentality, and is
What does
it's
that mean?
crabs in a barrel essentially is a euphemism that if let's use economically disadvantaged people, doesn't matter what demographic they are, um, where they come from. They see somebody trying to better themselves, whether it's like what David said, through hard work, whether that's education, um, what damn, I can't even speak tonight. Whatever other scholastic endeavor they may have, or whether it could just be working out, and they start to hit some goals that take them away from this baseline group. And all of a sudden, you see members of that baseline group, they try to keep that individual from getting out. So whether they physically try and intimidate him or her, emasculate them, or any other way they can keep this individual from getting out, that's what they'll do. Anytime somebody tries to get out of the barrel, they pull them back in, aka crabs in a barrel mentality. We don't want you to be better. We want you to stick where we are because we don't want to do the work to elevate. Sometimes the only way an individual can better themselves is to change their environment. This is why you see, especially with black men, you see when a lot of black men who have an opportunity to get away from a certain environment, they go for it. The smart ones do. The innately smart ones. And when I say the innately smart ones, I'm talking about the ones who actually can see that there is something beyond the horizon than where they are now. Those are the ones that are going to make it out. They were always going to make it out regardless. They just needed a way. So when you see them in college and they come from virtually nothing, you know they're going to make something of themselves because they're already driven. Tom Brady, and I'm a Michigan fan. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It was within him to excel. So as long as he got the opportunity when he was drafted, like David said, in the 6th round, he said, I have my chance. And when Bledsoe went down, he grabbed the reins of that horse and he never looked back. He was always, always looking forward. It's like Shaq said about his stepfather. When Shaq won his first ring, and this is per Shaq, he took it home, showed his stepfather. Stepfather looked at it, said, "That's nice. Put it up." Shaq looked at him kind of quizzically. He said, "Huh?" He said, "What about the next one?" That's what those types are driven to. This is why I said that when Giselle married Brady, she married a lion. You can't turn a lion into a cub, because when an individual has that mindset that they always want to excel, they're going to always try and do something to excel. The only individual, and I stress the term individual, that's going to stop Brady from trying to succeed is himself. He, like any other athlete, they will get there. You know why? Because Father Time is undefeated. Father Time will tell you, hey, your time is over. Go sit your behind down. Go sit in your post-career seat and do post-career things. And these are some things, that men in certain arenas, especially sports, they have to learn. And that's why some people call a lot of sports athletes narcissists, because they're driven. And honestly, when you're dealing with certain things, there's nothing wrong with being driven, provided you're not hurting anyone else. Now, when it comes to Brady, some people will say, well, he's hurting his family. He was really hurting his wife. That may be the case. But the only people who can decide that is him and his wife. Or that's elementary now, but at the time, those were the only two people who can decide that.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother subject. I just been seeing posted. She's on vacation with some other guy, but that's a whole nother subject.
Monkey branching.
One of the things I want to close this out, then we get into the blended families, that when you're in a relationship and you have two people jockeying for a position and one thing, so you think you better than me, that's dysfunction right there. If it's a woman that's making more money than me and she's on the up and up and she's doing her thing and everything is legit, only thing I could do as a man, either I can ball up in a fetal position, and if she's the type to take jabs and deal with it or leave, or say, I got to step my game up.
Mhm.
I need to do this. And it's vice versa. Like there should be no envy or saying, oh, you think you better than me in a relationship. Using that terminology, going back and forth. Especially if people got years being together. If you're still at that level and you're still saying this, yeah, you're not even congruent on what y'all trying to do, and that should be the last thing. And if a person does speak highly of themselves, uh, as they say, a narcissistic trait, and they talk the talk and they do it, and they're not belittling you, what's the issue?
Yeah.
What's the issue? If they motivate themselves and they say, I got to be the best, or I got to do this, or they're looking at somebody as kind of like their benchmark, like, I got to get to this level, and they're not saying, turning around looking at you like, what your sorry ass doing? That's different. But if they're not saying that, what is the issue? What is the problem? Sit back and say, damn, man, smile and say, yo, he's driven. And everything he say he do, he get it done. And if he's not hurting anyone, there shouldn't be no issue. And vice versa, if it's a woman, if she say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm doing that, and she's not hurting anyone, and you're not at that level yet, shit, marvel and be happy. You may be like, think, like, damn, that's mine. Now I got to step my game up. That's that on that subject. Then we can move on to the blend advantages and disadvantages of the blended family. And that's it's tough situations, but also when you get a certain age, it's probably guaranteed that it may happen.
Yeah.
Unless you come in, and even if you come in with no kids, it's more than likely that somebody's going to have a kid or something, and you're a blended family. So there's going to be things that be advantages, and there's going to be disadvantages. And like I said, one of the advantages was the financial support. You may be coming in, and y'all may have a solid plan, and y'all may be saying, "Why the hell we paying? You paying this, and I'm paying this. We could come together, uh, rent out your spot, do whatever the case
Hmm.
is, and then get that money coming in. And meanwhile, we can make this work." But then, if y'all both got kids, and a lot of times in certain cases, on the father, the kids may only be there certain times unless he just had full custody of the kid. If he has a son, or even in some cases a daughter, it depends on the situation with the mother. But those those situations are probably not as common as him just getting, the kids coming over maybe on the weekends or whatever the case is, or if they're older, maybe coming through in the summer, if they're in college or whatever the case is. But there's advantages, and then there's the disadvantages again with the sibling rivalries, and the kids like, yo, this this little girl thinks my dad is her dad. Why is she sitting on his lap? Why is he doing this? Why do he got to go pick her up or do whatever the case is? Complications. People
and
ready
you
to
know,
talk about that.
and you know what? Everybody in our age demographic was raised on a blended family. We just didn't realize it at the time. It's funny, and I use funny loosely, how TV can indoctrinate us to certain concepts that we don't quite understand as kids, but we will encounter as adults. So when I say those of us in our age demographic was raised on us, the Brady Bunch, the quintessential blended family. He had three boys, she had three girls. It's in the theme song, but they all come together to form this perfect family. Now, the only thing then, as opposed to now, was he made enough money in his job to where the mother could stay home and manage the day-to-day grind, if you will, of having six kids. Didn't help. Didn't help. Didn't hurt. They had a housekeeper too, so that alleviated some of the load. That no longer exists today. So more than likely you're going to have both parents working. So if those two don't have, first of all, an understanding of what's expected, not only between them, but between them, the kids, and the kids' behavior. And neither one of the adults should deviate from what's been agreed upon, whether it's grades, discipline, bedtime, whose authority is final. And I say whose authority is final because more than likely they're going to have another parent to deal with. So it may come down to having all four of the adults sitting in one room and The two primary, I tell the two secondary to say, hey, listen, I understand this is your child too. We may have our way of dealing with certain things. That's our way. But when our child is with me, this is how me and my mate are going to deal with this particular issue. It's not up to you to like it, but it is up to you to respect it. And I think that's where a lot of blended families fall apart is those understandings or those discussions. Heck, let's take the understandings and put them aside. Those discussions never occur. And when they do occur, you will find a lot less friction, especially now coming around the holidays. And I can say this because I've seen it happen firsthand with members of my family, is that when those principles are discussed and the boundaries are set, you have no problems.
Anita,
What
are
was the
you-
question?
go to bed. Good night. Rock my baby.
No, I think blended families are great because you bring perspectives from different sides and different people. Like I know Lakia, one of the old podcasts, she was saying it takes a village to raise a child, which I fully support. And I think that's true because everybody adds a different perspective and kids kids and adults, everybody can learn from it. For instance, I bring something different to the table for my niece and nephew than my mother does. So in that aspect, everybody that is in the family is a piece of the pie. If everybody had the same ideas, there'd be no personal growth. So I think it's advantageous to have a blended family. I wouldn't want to share my dad. I won't lie about that. I'm his only child.
Uh-oh.
I'm
So
his
we
only child.
just hit a bump in the road.
No, I'm not done. I'm his only child. When they got divorced and my mom got remarried, they had my sister. And I'm glad that I'm my dad's only child. Because I don't want to share my dad. Now that I look back on it, I feel like, I don't want to share my dad. My stepmom, she doesn't have any kids. And so that's how I was raised, with my dad being all mine. Now, if I was raised from young in a different situation, it'd be easier to handle. But see, me and my sister, we got to share my mom. And that's okay to an extent because me and my sister, we have different life paths. I'm career oriented and she's family oriented. But together we do bring different perspectives to the whole family.
Yeah, but the parents have to be equipped to deal with that. And when you do not have parents that are equipped to deal with that, that's where the friction starts to build up. And if it's not dealt with early on, those people are going to catch hell in that house. And
I agree.
it's never going to be a house where there's, as much as possible, harmony is going to exist.
Uh,
I agree. I dated somebody a few years back. He had 4 kids and 3
Yeah.
baby mamas. And I could not, this sounds horrible to say, but I could not stand his youngest. Oh my God. He was so bad. And, the guy I was dating, he would just not, he didn't really know, maybe, I don't know. He just really didn't teach him like manners or discipline or how to listen. And the boy was like, I don't know, 2, 3 years old.
That's when it
But
starts.
I was like, um, boy, you better get up in that chair and eat your food. He would get down. I told his dad, aren't you gonna make him listen to stuff like what you said the first time? That drove me crazy. I can't stand no badass kids and no parents that don't make them listen or don't groom them to respect their elders. I'm just not down with that kind of blended family. Even with my nephew, I whoop. As a matter of fact, we went out to dinner the other night. Me and my little nephew. He's 5, and he was being a typical little 5-year-old. You know, he's got lots of energy. I understand that, but then he just wouldn't listen, and to me he was having bad manners, like looking behind the booth. I was like, don't do that. People don't want to see you looking at them eat. I mean, there was nobody in the booth behind us, but then we went to the bathroom and he was just acting up. I had to whoop his butt. I said, boy, you know better to not listen to Aunt Nene, because I don't mind whooping your butt. You're gonna get whooping. I whooped his butt. He had nerve to like slap my hand. I said, oh no. I don't know where he learned that I mean, he's got a little 5-year-old hyper little attitude and energy. But he knows, like, for the most part, when he's with me, I don't play that mess. He gets away with certain things with my mom, because my mom she's older, and sometimes she don't have the energy to deal with it.
And see, that's that's on a whole nother level compared to someone where that's your nephew, where you're you're coming into a situation and your uh stepmom or stepdad, and you're faced to deal with that, and you may say, hey, this is how I handle my kids, but then the moms may say, well, I don't discipline them like that. I don't believe in that because when I grew up, that's what I used to get. And I always said, I'm never going to put my hands on my kids because my mom and my grandmother used to do this. So it's a lot to be discussed. And I don't think people really have those conversations. Okay. Uh, as Herb says, 100 questions. uh, like discipline or dealing with unruly other parents in the situation. I don't think those situations are discussed. You just,
They need
you
to
go
be,
by.
though. It's imperative for the wheel to run smoothly.
Yeah, but I think people get it caught up into the the love situation and the ultimate goal of being together, that they don't think like, yeah, his father or the mother, she's gonna sooner or later, she seemed like she was okay the first couple times you ran across her, but this is how she really is. I don't i don't think they get into all that seriously, because they don't want probably anything to jeopardize that goal of them getting married. Let me see. Naomi the Market. The problem came when we had to move, and my dad would be trying to impress the latest and greatest wife and stepkids. He would code switch into a person I didn't know. And that's part of it, because some of the kids looking like, really? Really? This is when he was living with us, he wasn't like this. And all of a sudden, the way he speaks is different because maybe, just maybe, the woman that he's with is at a different level. So now he's all polite. He's doing, he's just acting indifferent. But he was with your mother, who was, and I'm not talking about you, Naomi. I'm just saying, period. Ratchet as hell. And he was a ratchet ass dad. And that's the way he handled them kids. But now he's oh, you need to do this, son. You need to do this, and you like, as a kid, you looking like, wow, like, damn, is this our dad? So now you're having meetings between the brother and sister, and like, yo, man, he's so phony, whatever. Like, like he's full of shit, whatever. Like this dude. Then you go back telling your mom, like, yo, I don't even want to go over there like that, whatever. Like this dude, I can't even recognize him, whatever. He be showing off, and then see, that's why I didn't like her in the first place, whatever. She thinks she better than I. And there you have it. And there you have it.
And you know what the funny thing about that is? This is there is nobody on this planet better than calling out a parent's bullshit than their child, because your child knows you. Your child knows you as well as you do yourself. Particularly, like you said, David, when it comes down to how you are with them, they will see and identify in a synapse the treatment you gave them versus the treatment you're giving somebody else's kids, and they're gonna want to know why. And like David said, they're gonna go back and tell the spouse, whether it's male or female, mother or father, and they're gonna say, "What? I've never known him to do that. I've never known him to be like that." So then what? And they're gonna want to know what gives. And the first thing they'll probably identify with, "Oh, so you think this person's better than I am?" And there you go. That whole circular thing again about who's better this and who's better that, when an individual just may have learned their lesson. So in order not to, quote unquote, damage somebody else's kids, they're going to treat them differently than what they did their own, especially if they're younger. They always say that a parent makes their greatest mistakes with their first child. Now, understand what I mean when I say mistakes. When I say mistakes, I'll talk about the ways that they handle certain things. Not that it was good, not that it was bad. It was just the way. So let's say you have a child who always cried when they didn't get their way. Didn't matter what it was, how small, how big, they would always cry, throw temper tantrums, even at the age of 4. They all of a sudden now, this individual parent marries or comes into a situation in which they have another child, and they realize what they did with their first child was ineffective, so they do it differently, and all of a sudden they get a different outcome. That kid later will say, "Well, you never did that with me." And the first thing the parents should do is be honest and say, "You know what? I did not know how to do it." This is the one thing that a lot of parents are guilty of, is they won't admit that they were wrong about something. And not because they were just wrong, it's because they didn't know. Parenting and humans across the world, across the pantheon of time, have all had this experience. Parenting, despite what we all are led to believe, parenting does not come with a pamphlet. Parenting is trial and error. I have 10 siblings, trust me. We were all not dealt with in the same way. Some were allowed to get away with some things the others weren't. Some had some freedom that the others didn't. It's because we all demonstrated mastery and understanding certain concepts faster than other ones did. It's as simple as that. So somebody that demonstrates mastery at something, you say, "Hey, here's the next step in the progress. Can you master that?" And once you demonstrate mastery of something, there's no need to keep you constrained. I let you go until you fail. That's where your level and your boundaries are. Far too often, we want to keep people constrained, not for their safety, but for ours. So we can say, "Hey, look, I was only doing what I was supposed to do." Let that kid grow. Let that adult flourish, blended family or not. If you see a child has an ability, let that child explore that ability with adult oversight. That means wherever that child is going, whatever that child wants to do, you're with that child every step of the way, allowing that child as best as you possibly can to make their own decisions unless you can identify the potential danger, then you step in. I'm not saying you have to be a helicopter parent. I don't want anybody to conflate what I'm saying with allowing the kid to be free to make decisions and opposed to just hovering above every step of the way and saying, no, no, you can't do that. If you see, excuse me, something that a child is going to do that's going to cause that child to fail, let that child fail. You know why? Because eventually that child is going to get to a point where they're going to succeed. And I'll relate this to playing video games. And I don't know if you've ever been a gamer, Dave, or whatever the case is, but boys will sit there and play a game for hours on end trying to figure out how to beat the big boss. And most mothers can't understand it for the life of them. Why are you always trying to beat that? You know you can't do it. Which always going to make the boy try even harder until somebody shows that boy how it's done or he figures it out. Those are the steps that boys need to take in order to learn to be successful because he's going to encounter roadblocks in his life. He's going to have to figure out how to get around them. He's going to have to deal with the daily grind of what's expected of him because of his gender. No more, no less. He's not going to be given any breaks. And if he doesn't get his behind up every day, which is what we were talking about at the beginning, and gets to work, keep grinding, keep pushing, he will never get to a point of what he needs to do in order to realize himself as an actual man. Nobody else other than him. And I think that's what a lot of men struggle with is they don't have, excuse me, they don't have an understanding for themselves, not for anyone else, but for themselves, of what it means for them to be a man. They're constantly being told by people on social media, by some friends, and by this and by all that other stuff, what it means to be a man. I can't tell you how many times people have told me I am not a man, and I just experienced this a couple of weeks ago, actually about 3 or 4 days ago, and I mean to bring that to the platform, that my life must suck because I don't have any kids. I can't tell you how amusing that is when I hear it. But those are some of the things that a lot of men have to deal with, particularly black men, because it's assumed that if you don't have a child, you must be a virgin, gay, or you can't get women. Not because you chose not to have kids.
Well, one of the things with that is too many, and it's a couple points I want to make, but too many parents stop living for themselves and everything is about their kids. So every walking thing is, and with the age of social media, well, I'm irrelevant as a parent. I have to post my child because they get caught up in that. Because most people, you see a kid, oh, you automatically like it. But most people who like it, they just follow on the line. They don't even know. They haven't even read the freaking fucking caption, excuse my language, or whatever the case is. They just automatically like it. And some people need to be validated like that. Unfortunately, which is crazy to me. So when you think about the whole dynamic of that, it's crazy. So I got a bunch of thoughts that's going through that was said. I lost my train of thought. That's what happens when you get older. You have so much you want to say, and you're thinking like, man, what I want to say next. I'll come back to it, but I think a lot of that is validation that you stop living as a parent and your kid becomes everything, but then shit, you 40 something or 50, shit. Hopefully you still got a lot of life to live. Still be the best that you can be.
Yeah.
Still be the best that you can be. Still try to get promotions, still try to make as much money as you can. And because the thing you don't understand about kids, ain't nothing guaranteed. I keep saying that like ain't nothing guaranteed because you have a lot of parents. They kid in first or second grade, they want to post kid got straight A's. And and my kids in the sixth, seventh grade, they got straight A's. And I've seen it all, been at all levels. Don't mean nothing at this point. Celebrate that between y'all. That's not a global thing that needs to be done because you don't know the next step or the next level what's gonna happen when people are like, hey, you was posting this kid grade all these years, whatever. I was just curious, whatever happened to that child? They in jail. Or
Yeah. Yeah, man.
some celebrations need to be just to your to yourself, really, like on social media wise, because you never know. But some parents stop living because of that, even with the blended family, they're trying to be something that they're not, and let kids, kids gonna dream, they're gonna do whatever. But if you think about it, their audience isn't your audience.
Right.
You 50 and your child and you're a late bloomer, 7 or 8, that they don't have to be on your page like that. Really, like no one other than seeing a kid face, it's not making any difference. Still be the still be the best that you could be as parents in blended families or whatever the case is. Still live for yourself, and
You
that's
know,
the
and there
bottom
may
line.
I don't necessarily agree with, don't post it on your Facebook because why not? You're proud of that child and their accomplishments. So I don't feel that there's no reason to celebrate that with my friends and family on Facebook.
Okay, you can, and you can look for somebody to click the like button or whatever. Do they
I
really?
mean, for
Excuse my
me, it's
language. Do they
not
really?
about
Do they really freaking care? That's the bottom line.
some people do.
Some.
I mean, I post pictures of me and my nephew having fun and go out on
See, you keep
outings.
talking about your nephew. We talking
So,
about individual, personal.
well look at it like this, Anita. When you do these type of things unwittingly, you're putting undue and unnecessary pressure on that particular child. You don't think so now because they're in the sixth grade. And it's like David said, what happens when that child gets to be 11th grade, 12th grade, they graduate, and all of a sudden you don't talk about them anymore? People are going to want to know why because you've already invited them in.
and that's that. But I
Hold
guess
on,
everybody has their own
hold on.
opinion
No, no,
because
no. It's not about the opinion.
I see my friends and my family members post about their children getting A's and B's. And I'm like, that's really good because they might
Hold on.
come from a family that is not too intelligent, but they're proud of their child's accomplishments. And I'll be like, good for my family, you know? And also a lot of my family lives in Florida, so
All right,
it might be a little different there. But
let me ask.
I don't feel like it's a bad thing.
I
All
didn't
right,
say
let
it
me
was
ask.
bad.
Hold on, David. Hold on. Let me undercut her comment for a moment. And I'm sure you remember this, David.
Mhm.
Herbert, you trying to always undercut. Stop.
No, I want to keep balance. That's my job, is to keep balance. What happens when the smartest person at the high school graduating class turns around and does something horrific on that day? Do you
Okay,
post that?
and
Do you post that?
I would not post that.
But
Not
you don't have a choice. You know
necessarily.
why?
No.
You
I
don't have a
do
choice.
have
You
a
know why?
choice.
You know why? Because
What?
it's going to make the news anyway.
Okay, and
We had a gentleman here, valedictorian of his graduating class,
My class.
turned around and killed, I believe it was his grandmother or mother, David,
It was his mother.
turned around and killed her on graduation day because of the pressure he was put under. This is why we're saying this. We're not saying don't be proud of the accomplishments of your child. We're just saying understand the pressure that you put them under.
I understand what you're saying, but whether it's on Facebook or in the household, it might still be undue pressure. And
No,
nobody knows what
no, no,
goes
no, no.
on outside of the household that might be affecting that child as undue pressure.
No, he stated the
It
reason why
don't
he killed her,
why?
because she was putting pressure on him. He's
Okay.
this
Listen,
this
listen.
is what he
This is what happened. Whatever. This man, we had graduation rehearsal. He came home a little bit late. He was with his girlfriend, and she came teeing off. Like, what is it to freaking tee off about when the man had 98, 99 average? But I guess has been his life because I played little league football with him and everything. He always had a little temperament with him, and he went to after that he went to town on her with a base. And he had older parents. Went to town on her with a baseball bat, and end up killing his mother uh that evening or that afternoon before our graduation. So my graduation wasn't pleasant because I kept thinking about him coming in with a trench coat or whatever the case is, and like going crazy. As soon as I walked up to the door, saying like, "Did you hear what happened? Did you hear what happened?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, such and such killed his mother." I'm like, "What?" So the whole time I'm down, like damn, like this is life. We about to step into the real world,
right.
and this is life. This is what this is supposed to be. So the whole time it was kind of odd and awkward. Sometimes, again, parents put like Herbert was saying, you put added pressure on the stuff, and sometimes kids don't really want that. They're like, I
Right.
don't know these old ass people you
Right.
posting my picture on, whatever. And some kids will tell you that. Don't post that.
Right.
Don't post that.
Right.
I don't know your friends and all that. I have my own people, whatever. Don't post that. But then again, you posting stuff to 40 or 50-year-olds, and your daughter or your son is handsome. You got lurkers. Like, they sure look good. Oh my God. Oh, when they get older, man. Yeah,
And
but
then,
people don't think about that shit. They don't think about
honestly,
that at all.
and the
At
and the
all.
thing and the thing about it is they won't necessarily come themselves. They will send one of their relatives at your child. So think about this. You have a child who just got a full ride scholarship to a D1 school. Doesn't matter if the child is male or female. They'll send somebody that's about 4 or 5 years older to court them, date them, or whatever. Heaven forbid they get pregnant. They get somebody pregnant. Now all of a sudden the trajectory has been offset. All the things that they could have accomplished may be derailed, may be delayed. All this because, as a parent, you felt it was okay to put their exploits out there publicly. There have been people I've known on Facebook who I didn't know had kids, And when we're messaging back and forth, they said something. I was like, "You have kids?" Yes, my child is such and such years old. I'm thinking, I've never known. You never said anything about that. Said because I don't make it public. There has to be a boundary that you set for your kids versus the world. You don't want to put your kids in a situation that they didn't create. And I understand, and this is for all the parents out there, all the future parents. Keep those accomplishments. I don't care how fantastic they are. Keep them within the house. You want to reward your kid for getting straight A's? Go buy them something they ordinarily wouldn't get for Christmas. That's their reward. You want to take them somewhere? That's the reward. You want to photograph them and keep those for yourself? Do that. You want to follow what your kid is doing on social media? Create a dummy account. No profile picture, no words, no affirmations, no nothing.
Because I won't pick
Be there, but be invisible.
I can tell you this. It's a lot of grown ass people that
It's what?
it's a lot of grown ass people that your kids have beef with their kids. These grown ass people coming up looking for your kid.
Mm-hmm.
I deal with this shit on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, so this grown ass person got on a bus or whatever the case is, but you know why they know what they look like?
Because you
went
put
to
them
your
out there so
page
much.
and you posted whatever. Oh, there they go. There they go. You just never know. This is not, it's not a game. And I don't know why people think like, oh, they just said, they what do people say? You're just a Scrooge or or whatever the case
Curmudgeon,
is.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, listen, I heard it all. I heard it all. It's not a game, man. You're supposed to protect your children. And getting likes and all that shit ain't worth it when you got people that you have known beefs with and they trying to get to you. You get to your kid. Well, you know, Tasha go to that school. She don't mind. She'll fight her ass, whatever.
Yep.
She stay getting suspended or whatever the case is. Because I ain't never liked the mother or I ain't like the father, whatever. We just saying be cautious of what you do as far as your kids. And I know we was talking about blending and all that, but I don't give a damn. We can go off course, whatever. We just trying to drop jewels, whatever, at the point. So we start off at one point, we go to another, and this could be a whole nother talking point next show. That's how I operate, and it's real. It's not that serious. It's serious, but you could have your own.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, they say it's not. Yeah, I was gonna say they say it's not that serious until it becomes that serious. And then all of a sudden they say, "I never knew." Did you ever stop to think and project into the future what something could do? It's like the pebble in the pond. Eventually, that ripple is gonna get to the other side. The only question is, what kind of momentum is it gonna have? It's up to the parents to decide that. Like I said, keep your kids off of social media for as long as you possibly can. Because I was told, years ago when somebody asked me what I was going to get my kids for Christmas, I don't have any kids. Well, what you going to get your nieces and nephews? I said books. I said, what kind of uncle is you? I said, uncle that that likes to have his people educated. Because so often, we think toys is the only way to make kids happy to appease them. But what happens if you have a nephew or somebody else that they like books, they want to read?
See, one of the things is we can't even keep ourselves off there because we got to put everything that we do on there, and it's getting that time. It's getting that petty season, and I know some people like, well, it's Christmas. It's Thanksgiving time. Just want to be happy. People just want to post their Christmas trees with the presents underneath and all that stuff. But there's some people
overdo it with all those presents, like up to the ceiling.
Some of them is just empty boxes. So we know that there's empty boxes that they pull out every year. But then there's somebody sitting back and saying, "Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, they got it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they got it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we went out of town. We this and that. Oh, they went out of town. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we about to run up in that shit. We about
Mm-hmm.
to run up in a that is the importance of safety. And you
Mm-hmm.
wonder why all of this stuff go down and people are like, well, how did they know that they were there? Because you had posted it and your location said you were here and they said it's nobody there.
Yep.
So let's go do this or that.
This is why I tell people, with the exception of when I potentially go live when I'm at a sporting event. That's the only time somebody's actually going to really know that I'm out of town, and they won't know how long I'm out of town for. Not that I have anything in this house worth taking anyway, unless you want to take my cats, and I might have to come for
I'm coming to
it.
take Shadow.
Good luck. Shadow's gonna fight you.
Shadow ain't
Paul's
gonna fight me.
Shadow's gonna fight you.
And your
Lucky.
stuffed little rabbit back there.
Oh
Oh,
Well,
God.
bear.
I'm gonna have to. No, she's correct. She's correct.
Mhm.
They're little theme songs.
Mhm.
Okay.
Taking the bunny rabbit.
Okay. uh,
I thought they were cute. I thought they'd work well in an auction for Valentine's Day. It fell through. So I'm kind of stuck with them. They've, kind of quote unquote grown on me. So, they have a place on the love seat, obviously. But, that's another
I
topic for a
didn't have
different
a
time.
Valentine.
But no,
Oh,
I tell people, the only time people will know I'm out of town is when I post when I'm at a sporting event. They won't know how long I'm gone for and all that other stuff. Greg said low maintenance cuddle toys. They too small for me to be cuddling with. And I usually sleep upstairs. On a rare occasion, I'll fall asleep watching a movie down here.
and one of the things I
But
want to say, what Naomi said, she said some memories are just personal and don't need to be posted. Unfortunately, we are in a time that unless it's on social media, it didn't happen, and that's true, and that's what people look at, time stamped or this and that. This went down on this day. Here's this post, whatever. When
I
really,
mean, I agree with that with some things, just not with everything. Because some people do want to be showboaty on social media. They
I only
do.
need to be flamboyant in one place.
In the bed.
Nope, in my mind. Case in point, I have been not in Times Square, but in New York City, Canyon of Heroes, New Year's Eve. This is back, I believe Facebook was out, but we were still using print film. I have a boatload of pictures. Actually, no. Um, I had a digital camera. That's what it was. I took a bunch of pictures. Man, I had a blast down there. Pictures at me at Baines Park. I went down. I think it was Fifth Ave because I had pictures of Radio City Music Hall. Um, the winter display. It was a bunch of pictures. But the thing about it was, I didn't post them until I got back home. And I think we have to. And when I say we, I'm talking about us as a society. We need to get beyond the need for gratification from others and stop looking for their validation and realize the validation of what you do as a person comes from within. Because if you do something good, bad, or indifferent, and nobody's there, did you still do it?
Yeah.
But a lot of people they don't have that belief in themselves. They believe they need to derive satisfaction from someone else. And that's where the danger comes in. Because if you don't get that satisfaction from someone else, what are you going to do? This is why some people end up so depressed, self-deleting themselves? It's because they think the world don't care. When in essence, 99.9% of the world don't care about your personal accomplishments unless it benefits them.
Exactly.
And in all honesty, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I don't look for pats on the shoulder, even though I'm still struggling with my garage. I don't look for pats on the shoulder from from anyone else. The reason why I do post that stuff is I want to let people know that sometimes, and this wasn't my case, sometimes you have to get out in the world and do things yourself, no matter how difficult, how arduous something is. You can derive satisfaction from something you did without an audience.
And I could tell you when you had mentioned that you was doing that, and I said I wanted to follow that because I was interested in seeing the process
Yeah.
of that done, whatever, genuinely, whatever. I'm not about to get on nobody's stage and do it because shit. Once I put a hammer in one nail, I'm done, whatever. But just
Man,
to see it work, like okay, I like to see how something starts into
yeah.
the end because to me it symbolize it's the journey, the
Mhm.
process, and all of that stuff. Like, oh, that's cool. Like you got it done. Like, wow. So that motivates you in other areas
Right.
of your life
Right.
that you can start off with something. You might not be a professional at doing it,
Mhm.
but if you study it and you do it and you do it well, shit. Now and you do another shit. Next thing you know, shit, you can be an expert in this without
Right.
even going to school
Right.
or doing whatever the case is. So that's what
Mhm.
I was like eager to say. Like, man, let me know when you're done with it. I want to see the
Yeah.
process.
This man,
I'm here
I'm
to help you, Herbert. I bring you some Chinese soup.
I appreciate that actually. The only
Huh?
problem I'm having now is placing one last board after I get that done, and I need to get that done this week before the weather really turns bad. It's already snowed here at least once, just a dusting. But this man, I tell you, there are few things that I have ever done that have been physically as exhausting as this. Um, and even when I was younger, I played football, and I'm sure you recall doing 2-a-day practices in the summer. I don't know, maybe it's because I was younger then, but this shit is exhausting, especially when you got to go to work later that night, man. 3 or 4 hours of this, and you just like, oh yeah, look, I need to lay this down. This is it's true what they say. Construction and roofing, those are young man's jobs.
It's time to put it to bed because that weather is coming. When y'all had that heat wave, 80 degrees or something in November, you already know it's coming.
A woman's job, Herb, is just to bring you soup when you're out there being cold.
Yes,
Actually,
hold up. It's more than that. Bringing soup is
you
hold
know,
up.
I,
Say it
I I
again.
love my neighbor, and I'm not gonna mention her by name. She's been one of my champions. Every time she sees me up there, we engage in about a 30-second conversation. She said, "Good luck," because I wouldn't be doing it. I call somebody else to have somebody else do it. So it's tough, but I need to get it done. Uh, like I said, no fanfare, just me. I sit up there and I take the pictures, so like Dave said, so people can follow, so other ordinary people can see that even though something is daunting, if you take it step by step, you can accomplish that. And I believe I may have said this to you on a call, Anita. If you had to move 1,000 pounds,
I would call Herbert.
this is for anybody. It's just an analogy. If you had to move 1,000 pounds of rocks 10 feet to the right, how would you do it?
Call Herb for help.
Nah, do it yourself. But how would you do it? There's nobody else. Let me put it to you like this. Let me place some further stipulation on it. There is nobody that you can call to help you. How would you do it?
Not one rock at a time.
Why not?
Because that's time consuming.
But everything you do in life is
I don't have that much patience. I
what kind
like
of
to get
patience?
it done and get it done.
What kind of patience is required to live life one day at a time?
I just get a wagon and move it from here to there.
A rock at a time. You do not have to move everything at once. You do not have to do everything at once. The problem that a lot of people have is they wait. And then they put themselves under time pressure. And then they have no option but to move everything at once.
I know this. I
I
do
started
that.
I started my roofing thing about a month and a half ago. Now, do some do some things that would be on my control that cost me a couple of days of work. I would have been done with this, but I had to deal with some issues at work that cost me some time, which was deeply infuriating to me. Absent those 2 days, I'd have been done because all I have to do is paper and shingle, and those honestly those are the two easiest things to do. Put the paper over the board and shingle, and you're
Hmm.
done. Because I've already done the other half of my garage, so I know what the process is, and that side is holding up amazingly well. All it did, like Dave said, all it did was looked at some tutorials on YouTube. I had a roundabout understanding what needed to be done. It was just that this side compared to the other side was so fucked up, and pardon my French, but it was so badly done that I don't know who did it, but I hope they didn't do any more roofs after that because they did not do this one well. They, for those of you who understand what I'm about to get into, I'll explain this real quickly. With shingles, if you look on the, if you go to a hardware store and you don't do this, please, and you rip open a pack of shingles and you lift them up, you will see plastic underneath the shingles. That's so when they're shipped in warmer weather, the tire does not glue itself to the shingles underneath. When you lay the shingles down, you're supposed to rip that paper from underneath and press it on the tire seam underneath so the shingles adhere. That's what actually keeps the shingles together. When you nail the shingles, those keep the shingles to the roof. They didn't do that with these shingles. And as I'm ripping up the shingles, I'm like, who the hell did this? And I'm an amateur roofer. I'll preface this all day, twice on Sunday. I'm an amateur roofer, but I was still a student up to see that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
It's a lot. So yeah, I know. In the cocktail and the counselor's corner, we touch on subjects and we veer off to a lot of things, but they're all connected.
God damn.
You may not understand it. They're all connected, and her's probably feeling good because Philly about to take this L. Uh, but
Oh,
he had been in
word?
a better. Dallas would have been in a better position if they would have handled their
Yeah.
business, but they didn't. So, but yeah, the Commanders is up 26-21. There's 5 seconds left. Philly got the ball at their own 10-yard line. It's a done deal.
Herbert, you got those wings?
Yeah.
No, I had some Chinese food, but I have to go the conventional route to heat it because I still haven't replaced my defunct microwave. It's sitting there with a zero on its face, like, you can't use me.
And they
So
just tried to do that whatever
Hail
that
Mary, that
that
yeah.
no, that little flop thing where they go the
Oh,
California thing, and they gave Washington got another touchdown, so they went 32-21.
good.
Yeah. But we're gonna get some closing comments and get out of here. And again, all these subjects build off of one another, and we're not done with them. And we desire more people to come in. We could have 10 people on the panel. It's been times we had 10 people on here and people in the background, but then people get caught up in what they do, and everybody people venture off. But we're not. For me, we're not going anywhere. Oh, and that was one thing I didn't recognize because whatever the date was, I've been doing this, and her been on this journey for 8 years. 8 years
That's been a while.
strong. 2014, November 10th, 2000. Was it 14? I had my first blog talk show, and here you have it. No, I ain't the rich and famous or whatever the case is, but what it says is I got longevity and consistency to be able to still put out stuff, and I've changed up, and it's been in different formats over the years. And her's been on my side from day one, and that's 8 years. That's work. That's work. So when people sit here and like, oh, I just ordered me a kit from Amazon. I'm gonna do me a podcast. I'm gonna do such and such. It's work in this.
Well, I've been on your side since North Avenue Connection.
And I appreciate that too. Yeah, you've been there, and you was down with the rebellious crew and all of that, and still came back because the North Avenue's connection is deeper than probably this. But
They sure are. I
the
think
thing,
I was the only white girl there.
and you probably was, but
I didn't care.
Yeah, you
I was
didn't get
just there for the food.
yeah, you didn't get mistreated or anything like that.
No, I didn't.
So the thing is,
I just got
longevity.
mistreated at the bar or the
That's-
club
yeah,
when they
that's
were
the
like,
whole-
"No, you can't come in." I was like, "Why not?"
I must have been home sleeper at work when that occurred.
yeah, that was a whole different thing. That was a misunderstanding. That whole situation. But
So
what
why? Because I'm white.
Anita, you're killing my vibe.
I
So,
mean, I was being sarcastic.
so what I'm saying is, you put in work, you get this content. Concepts build off of concepts. We could probably have 3 or 4 different shows off of stuff that was said tonight, and that's how I think. Where most people say, "Oh, let me stroll through. Oh, I want to talk about the same thing. Let me go into this big podcast, whatever." That's not how I think. I just think about little things that's said, and then you research it, and you're like, "Damn, that's there's a lot behind this subject matter," and that's what we do here in the Counselor's Corner. So that's why 8 years strong and running, and we ain't done yet. We're gonna break. It's gonna break through. It's gonna break through, and I'm telling you, it's gonna break through. I mean, the YouTube thing is growing.
How do you stop?
It's a snail's
Get her,
pace.
buddy. Get her. Get her. Bite her. Sorry, Dave.
Yeah. But it's growing, and we just gonna keep pushing forward. So if you're on here, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please like and share. All that stuff helps with the algorithms and all of that stuff. Stuff that I ain't too familiar with, but now every other day I'm getting messages on LinkedIn from these YouTube people that want you to buy build up your numbers. Like, who is these people? But whatever the case is, we're gonna get our closing comments specifically on this subject matter, and we're gonna go from there. Anita, and you can look at the 2 talking points. You could choose one or the other, and just give a closing comment on that.
I wasn't here for most of the narcissism, but I think, well, from my perspective and my studies, that a person can have narcissistic traits and not necessarily be a narcissist. And we have all these people running around thinking they're an expert in diagnosing somebody to be a narcissist. No. You can be socially toxic and not be a narcissist. But anyway, I'm working on my paper in toxic masculinity and the rise of COVID.
Okay, yeah, it's gonna be
So
interesting.
that's what my research is for my 8-page paper.
Are they
That's part of it.
are they separate topics or
No, the same. One of them, I mean, pretty much the whole paper runs together.
Hmm.
How COVID affected substance abuse users, the treatment of availability for substance abuse users during COVID or since COVID, and how toxic masculinity has had an adverse effect on the rise of COVID? Which there's a lot of articles out there. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of research. The research out there. I just have to put it all together to make sense.
I can't wait then for we to bring this to a subject in the counselor's corner. We talk about that. That's
Toxic
interesting.
masculinity
Yeah, we covered that.
and socially toxic people.
we've discussed that before, so that's not new here.
I wasn't here then, so
You
it
were
don't
here.
count.
You were here.
Yeah, so go back and look at it. Go back, look at it, and listen to it. You might be able to glean some information from there or places to look.
She was here. She was here. That was what
wasn't here.
you the Ratchet 5.
What? Don't be calling my girls ratchet. Boy, I'll come through and hit you with a wet noodle.
Come hit me with the wet doodle. Tell them to come hit me with it too.
And
All right.
that's what my grandma used to say.
Herb, what's your point, man, on this? Because it was a lot said.
Fellas, like I said, I can only speak from a masculine perspective. If you encounter a female who you believe, narcissism can only be diagnosed in a professional setting. So let's get that out the way.
Yeah, let's get that on the table. Okay.
Come across a female who you believe is exhibiting traits or characteristics of someone you believe is narcissistic, start putting them through the 20th degree, man. Start asking questions. Start asking questions about their childhood. More specifically, what the relationship is to their father. It's going to tell you an awful lot. And if you feel you need to press the issue, ask if there's any history of abuse in regards to her. And if she balks at answering the questions or she gives you resistance, don't fight it. Leave her alone. Because you don't need that kind of strife in your life. I'm going to tell you firsthand. Like I said, I've dealt with somebody who was there. No matter how good the sex is, no matter how sloppy the toppy is, bounce! and as always, growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
Wait, I got one more thing.
Oh,
Now that Herb brought some stuff up about, asking about their history, this is going to be real quick. It might be a talking point. I was talking to one of my friends, and she brought up so and so had daddy issues, and then one of my other friends was like, so and so has mommy issues. You know, that's really derogatory, and it's really ignorant to say that, because you can't help what happened to you when you were younger and how you grew up. So people don't understand. It's like a real big insult, and it, like, for a person like me, that would hurt my feelings, because I can't help. Like, if I did have daddy issues, I can't help that. Like, that's something real personal that, you know, some people aren't always ready to get into that, Herbert. A woman isn't always ready to expose herself like that. So it doesn't mean dismiss her. She might be working on herself through private counseling to
You know
help
what?
get through those issues.
You know what? I agree, but it is not my job to help you build your Tower of Babel.
Nobody's asking you for it to be your job.
Okay. These is closing comments.
Oh yeah.
Not up for discussion. You can put it down for next week.
I put
We-
it down for next week, David.
We closing it out. My closing comment is, listen, folks, everything that's said is not for everybody. So
Amen.
the insensitivity, like, oh, that's hurtful, whatever. You can't control that. You cannot monopolize that. Before social media, if somebody was just sitting around talking about something and you overheard what they said, what could you do about it? The same thing. So stuff is going to be said. It's not for everyone. It's nothing that anyone ever said that, oh, everyone agrees with the message. Messages are put out there. You agree with it. You disagree with it. You keep it moving. You can internalize it if you want to, but that's just added stress on you. Stop worrying about everything around you if it doesn't directly impact you.
It's
I don't-
impacting me that Herb ain't got my pizza. That's what it's impacting me.
Well, you just bring your pizza over to this house, whatever, and then y'all figure that shit out. I'm so tired of you worried about her making the pizza. Bring that over there. He put it in the oven, and then y'all do whatever. So, with that said, final thing is everything is said ain't about your business. So stop taking it personal unless they call out your name. If they call out your name, then it's personal. Other than that, you is not the safety patrol over conversation.
Are you directing that towards me?
No, this is like period. Like I go through battles on a daily basis that
I
you
was
don't
just
know
being
about.
funny.
We out. Everybody stay warm. The weather is coming, and there's a lot of different strands of COVID and all of that stuff that's going on. Be safe.
Yeah.
Do well. And all I can say is
See you next time.
see you next time because what is it? It's Thanksgiving next Thursday, right? God damn,
Is
this time fly by.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yeah, so the holiday
I need to
season
find somewhere to eat.
is
I need
full.
somewhere to. Who's making ham hocks and greens? I need
Yeah, I remember
some.
that. I remember that conversation last year, and everybody's like, "Oh, we got you, Anita. We got you, Anita. We got these ham hocks and turkey necks and all that stuff."
And nobody had me.
Yeah, because they full of shit. They just be talking to be
I
talking.
know, right?
JBT. But
So if anybody on here is in
Herb
Niagara, Lewiston
got
area,
that smoke. Them turkey necks going on. For
I need some
Thanksgiving.
ham
Pull
hocks
up.
and greens.
Pull up.
Wait, I need somebody that knows how to cook ham hocks and greens, not just anybody.
Well, I won't be cooking anything next week. I'm gonna be. I don't know where I'm gonna be. Well, actually, more than likely I'll probably be at my brother's house. And honestly, I don't care because I just want to watch the game.
Who play on Turkey Day? Cowboys and
The
who?
Cowboys and the Jets.
No, Dallas plays the Giants.
I'm just kidding.
I was actually going to go to this game, but instead I went to the game for the playoffs between the Yankees and Cleveland, which I had a blast at. Even though the Jake is an odd stadium. I love the fact that they actually have the bullpens where they do, and for people.
Herbert, this is closing comments.
That's why you ain't getting no pizza.
We'll see you next time. I got brownies with frosting here. I don't need your pizza.
Valid point by Anita. That's one question I'll ask. Where they playing at, Herb?
They're playing in Dallas.
Okay, because that's make or break game, whatever. That's critical. It's
Yeah.
getting to the critical point of the season, whatever. But with that said, we out. We'll see you on Monday night before Thanksgiving, and and we'll talk about some of the things that we're thankful for and whatever the case, if I remember that or they remember that. But we out, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks. Please, again, like and share the video. Please subscribe to the channel, The Controversial Counselor. We out, everybody. Be safe, be
Yes.
well, stay warm, and we'll see
Got
you
my
next time.
nice heating blanket right here.
I see you, but you about to head over there and get. Y'all about to share
Herb ain't got no milk
brownies,
or
popcorn,
pizza.
or whatever. All
Herb
right.
better have my milk and pizza next week.
You got no kids. So you don't deserve no milk.
It don't matter. I got Buddy. That's my kid. You better
Everybody
have my
like,
milk and
"Ooh."
pizza.
Everybody like wondering what's going on with behind the scenes. We out.
I'll
Peace
bring the
and love.
Ovaltine.
Good night.
The little red wagon, huh?
I got the keys to the